G'day, this is Jim from the Urban Farmers, and today we're going to be making some eco-friendly briquettes for your barbecue or fire. These work great and they make use of a fantastic resource that we would otherwise just be throwing away or potentially into some other form of recycling. But using some shredded paper, a bucket and a grease gun and some PVC pipe that's suitable to fit within inside the grease gun. And we're also going to need some large washers that'll fit within the PVC pipe. First, you're going to go ahead and take your shredded paper and chuck it in a bucket and give it a good soak, and make sure we fill up the water so that all of the paper is submerged entirely. This needs to soak for, well, look, probably at least a week. A couple of weeks is good as well. So in the meantime, we can go ahead and take our PVC pipe, line it up to the grease gun, making sure that the end will fit within the grease gun easily, and go ahead and mark the other end as the place to cut it so that it will fit in nicely. And the next step is fairly obvious: cutting the pipe. Take the pipe, make sure it fits in nice and easily, and this gives you a little bit of a demo on how it's going to work. You can see that is going to compress the material within the PVC pipe. Now the next step is optional. It's not essential, but giving it a vertical cut down the length of the pipe is going to make it a little bit more easy to extract the mixture if you're going to be doing more than one briquette at a time. You can see the flex there is just going to help push the formed briquettes out of the pipe. Basically, the washer needs to be large enough that it doesn't fall through the front of the grease gun, and obviously small enough to fit within. They're going to help clamp the solution together. Now that material sitting for a week or so is going to go nice and pulpy like this. And basically it needs to be as pulpy as this so that you can actually form it in your hand and it'll start to make shapes. And that's a pretty good indication that when you form them within the grease gun and the pipe, it's going to hold its shape and be ready for the final process. But before we get to that step, we have to separate out as much of the water from the pulp as possible. I'm using a seed starter tray here, and it works pretty well, but you can use any sort of strainer or colander to do this. And basically just spreading that out and getting as much of the excess water out as possible. So you can see here I'm giving it a good squeeze out to get as much of that water out. And that'll just make the material a lot easier to work with in the final step. And once you've drained all that mixture off, you should be left with a fairly clumpy, easy to work with material like this. So the second and final step is to place your washer in the end of the PVC pipe and take the mixture and go ahead and push a whole bunch of it down in there, getting ready for the clamping. To start off with, we're going to do one, so go ahead and top the mixture off with another washer and pop it into the grease gun and start to give that a good squeeze to get rid of all the excess water. So this is basically killing two birds with one stone. We're not only forming the briquettes but also squeezing out all that excess water, getting ready for the final step, which is drying the briquettes out. So once it's compressed down as much as you can, you go ahead and release the pipe from the grease gun, and you can see that the briquettes formed pretty nicely in there. And just got to go ahead and push them out. I use a large stick like this to help push them out. There is a formed briquette. It's a pretty good size, that one. And obviously it's nice and formed, but still fairly wet, so as I mentioned, it does need to dry. In this step here, you can see I've got a briquette formed in there already, and I'm going to go ahead and separate each new briquette with another washer and pack in more solution or mixture, and just repeat the process after squeezing it down and forming multiple briquettes at a time. Now, as far as the drying process goes, I dried mine for a week and they were pretty good to go. I'm in a fairly dry, hot environment in Australia, so they did dry pretty quickly, but I did notice after 2 weeks of drying they were even better and a lot firmer, and they worked a lot better. So I would, depending on where you live around the world, whether it's dry, wet, or cold or hot, you're just going to have to use trial and error to find out the perfect drying time for your conditions, but I'd probably say at least 2 weeks, considering how warm it is here, and after 2 weeks it was best. And I'm sure that 2 weeks or more anywhere else around the world is probably going to do a good job, but the longer the better, I would imagine. You can see these briquettes forming nicely, and they're good for the environment, not having to buy store-bought briquettes. And there's the formed briquettes. They work really well. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. And until next time, take it easy.